What's going on, everybody? Welcome into another edition of the Sun Belt Syndicate with you from the first kick to the last pitch. We got a lot of sports going on right now. Before we go along too far, I am running the show solo today. Too many S's there in a row. But yeah, solo show. Marv, it didn't get back in time, and I kind of forgot about that to get somebody else to jump on with me. So it will just be me today. If you are watching live, go ahead, comment, rant, trash talk, whatever you want to do to keep this thing moving along and help me shape this thing up. But we're going to go over the standings, talk about what transpired over this past weekend, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we had quite a bit of ugly. But thank you to our sponsors, Don't Sleep Energy, which might need some tomorrow. I am on a venture down to Atlanta for some work stuff, and I believe, I'm going to double check this. I believe Georgia State has a basketball game. So if I get a chance to check that out, I will certainly be doing so because they've got that nice new gymnasium down there in Atlanta. And I think you can even see the skyrise from the inside of their place. So pretty cool little basketball arena that hopefully I'll be able to check out. But anyways, the other sponsor is Phenom Elite. Football season's beginning to wrap up, but Christmas season is right around the corner here. So if you've got someone that you know and love that plays sports, and specifically football, they are your go-to, both at Dick's Sporting Goods and online. Don't Sleep can be found at their website or on their Amazon shop. So definitely check them out. All right, Deputy Falcon TV. JMU runs the East. That's all we can say. Yeah, and they're close to running the whole conference because we've got some slip-ups that happened this past weekend, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens the rest of the way, but they're looking pretty good to hold on to the spot that they've got. I did get to go to that game with my son and my father, so that was a pretty cool environment. It wasn't a great game, but the environment was very impressive, so I'll definitely give full marks to both JMU staff and stadium personnel for running a good, complete show from start to finish, as well as the fans. Very inviting, very nice people up there in Harrisonburg. I have no complaints there. I know that some fan bases have had some interactions in the past, and yeah, I didn't have anything like that. Maybe it's because I had a 7-year-old with me. But yeah, all love. Just a little bit of trash talk from some more college age kids, but that's all in good nature. Definitely all for that. So yeah, I don't really have any complaints for how anything went except for the play on the field, because it wasn't a good showing by App State and it wasn't a great game to take in. But Jordan's jumping in saying hello. What's going on, man? Deputy Falcon saying, I'm super happy you enjoyed it. I work for RMC Events. So glad you were safe there. Yeah, I never felt unsafe in any form or fashion. We had a guy, luckily we were in front row, right behind App's bench, or as close as you can be in this situation. Very good seats, by the way, that they've got over there. There's like these cushiony mesh type backings to the seats. So you're not sitting on a hard plastic seat. You've got the cup holders there. So yeah, I think it's first class over there, even though it's on that short side, the unfinished side, right, of JMU's Bridgeforth Stadium, but still very nice, very easy to get in and around. It was nice not to take all the stairs this year, so that's not going to be a complaint because the last time went to a game, we did take in the experience from the away side up way high, and good view, right? You can see the whole field, but yeah, it was nice to kind of be able to see the video board and see the bigger side from the opposite way, right? So it was kind of a purposeful thing to kind of take it in from a different vantage point. Very, very impressive. The crowd was great. Seth saying, what's up? I know Seth was watching some basketball earlier today as App State held off Dartmouth. It's a very weird matchup. Did not remember that was a matchup before the season that they had scheduled. So interesting one there. And yeah, the good seats. Wait till it's rebuilt. Yes, there's plans for their stadium to kind of be completed, if you will. Look essentially the same on both sides. Will be even more impressive. But yeah, first class all the way around. Didn't have any issues getting around the stadium, finding what we needed. If we asked people, they were very receptive to helping us. Got to meet some of the guys over at JMU Sound Off. some other fans I had interacted with. We was there after the game. Armchair Mountaineers, the new podcast for App State. Those guys were great. I think there's 5 of them total, but I think 3 or 4 of them are doing the show. So really good people all the way around. I got to interact with a lot of fun aspects. I met some of the JMU To the House podcast, so that was cool. Hopefully we can kind of get something done. It looks like no matter what happens the rest of the way, they're going to be in a very good bowl game at the very least, and we know possibly a college football playoff. So with that said, let's go along and look at the standings, if we will, here. We had JMU win over App State, and we'll get into the details of some of these games, but they sit atop the East all by themselves, that perfect 7-0 record, the only undefeated team left in conference play, 9-1 overall. On the West side, we've got Southern Miss suffering their first defeat in conference play, so they are now 5-1, 7-3 overall. So we can see the vantage point from the teams just below them. Each have at least 2 losses. Actually, it's kind of a mirrored picture, if you will, on both the East and the West, 2, 3, and 4. You go, Coastal's 5-2, Arkansas State and Troy both 4-2, ODU 4-2, and then we've got Georgia Southern and Louisiana on that same plane there, both at 3-3 in conference play. As we know now, no one can claim the conference victory on the East over Coastal Carolina, or over James Madison. I'm sorry. Coastal Carolina was the only one who had a shot that would have been able to do so beforehand. But we know now that that won't be happening because of how it's transpired up to this point with what they had in the loss to Georgia Southern, and JMU and Coastal both play an out of conference game. So they both only have the one conference game left against each other. So again, JMU is in the slot for the East. The West still up for debate because you've got Southern Miss, Arkansas State, I believe, is still in play. I'd have to get down to the tiebreakers to be 100% about that. But Troy is definitely still in play. 4-2 in the last week of the season. If they can beat Southern Miss, and again, there's games in between there, but if they can beat Southern Miss and only have those 2 losses, they would then own the tiebreaker over Southern Miss, and Troy would get into that championship game. But it does look like JMU will be hosting this thing because no one else on the other side can do any better. However, it's still a possibility that Southern Miss has a real outside chance because Southern Miss could win their last couple games and then have that only 1 loss in conference if James Madison were to slip up and lose to Coastal. None of that would be good for any CFP for either side because that would play out the Sun Belt completely. But you could see a Southern Miss James Madison matchup possibly in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. So we'll have to see how that finalizes. And then we've got some of the teams kind of struggling here towards the bottom. Although Marshall 3-3, they've been, down and up just depending on the game a little bit. But 5-5 overall. Whereas everybody else who's 2 wins or less in the conference, the best record out of any of those teams is 4-6. App State will have to win every remaining game to become bowl eligible. I think unlikely. We'll see how it plays out. Georgia State obviously was already out. ULM is going to be out after the loss this weekend. Texas State, I think they've still got a shot because they are 4-6 as well. So if they win their last 2 games, they could have a shot at a bowl game. And looks like South Alabama is out as well, sitting at just 3-7 overall. Warren saying Troy coming on strong. They absolutely are. So we'll have to see if they can keep it rolling and have a real chance, shot, and opportunity at the postseason, both in conference championship aspect and obviously in the bowl game. But that's already been assured because they are sitting at 6-4 overall. Okay, let's get into these games. We know Thursday night we had Troy matching up with ODU in Norfolk, Virginia, and it was not to be for the Trojans. That Start of that game looked like it could have told you a different story, right? The kick return, essentially the returner did not see that guy coming in for the tackle, just obliterated. That was shared all over social media. So if you've missed that, definitely go check that out. It was quite the hit, but that was about all she wrote for Troy in that one's very, very weird way to start a game. Think you got all the pump and energy you could have and need going forward. And then you get not only beat, but you get completely shut out 33-0, the final score in that one. G Wills, BTA, for those that don't know the acronym there, belt to ass. And it was absolutely that in every form of the word. Boom Boom, very strongly worded here, fired Jared Parker. Team is completely imploded over the last two games. I would give some leeway here with the ODU aspect. I think ODU had some rough times of the season. This little kind of semi-bye week here to get into this Thursday game was always going to favor them because of what they can do offensively. And you just saw them really explode. You know, those couple losses really got underneath their skin, and they know that they were a better team than this. So it's a tough late season matchup for the Trojans. Yes, the aspect of getting completely shut out, that's hard to swallow. ODU scoring 33 points on you, that's not that bad. I mean, I think if you said anything otherwise, it would be a disrespect to what ODU is capable of on the football field. But yes, you think you can and need to score more points on your side of things to get it rolling back in the right direction. McKnight family saying, hi, what's up, guys? Thanks for checking in tonight. G. Will says, and how was the only highlight that was shown from that game? Yeah, the hit on the return was the only thing ESPN posted. My only guess on that, that was a great hot start as far as a highlight is concerned. They were hoping to have something real quick in some other form or fashion, and I guess ODU's 10 points in the first quarter and 20 points in the first half, they didn't find that. I don't know. I don't have any explanation for you there. Someone was paying attention early and then just didn't pay attention, which, let's say you can't fault them necessarily when it's like this. Unfortunately, probably not a lot of people continued to tune into this one. Boom Boom saying the first time Troy's been shut out since 2014. The first time a conference opponent has shut out Troy since 1983. Yeah, not something that happens often. And we almost saw it again on Saturday between App State and JMU, but they did break that thing late. James Franklin, front row preview of the matchup in Blacksburg next year. Yeah, he was there supporting Ricky Rane, who comes from the coaching tree of James Franklin. Interesting now that Blacksburg, Virginia Tech rumor mill is pretty much as strong as it's ever been, with Franklin possibly joining the ACC to coach the Hokies as soon as next season. And couple aspects that ODU could worry about in that regard, right? Like, is he there kind of recruiting Rane to be a part of his staff? Could they pay him more than the head coach of ODU? We've seen it happen, right? We've seen it happen before. Georgia State lost their head coach. South Alabama lost their head coach. Both became coordinators and made more money at the SEC level than what they were doing as a head coach in the Sun Belt, which is unfortunate, but certainly a possibility. So we'll have to see what happens there. And that speaks nothing of the fact that there's a portal aspect to all of this, and any introductions or handshakes he does with some players could set an early precedent, even though technically illegal to do that type of activity before the portal opens. We'll see, right? Those things are probably transpiring in the background, so we'll have to keep track of what happens there. Seth says ODU will soon learn how hard the transfer portal can be. Yeah, it may happen rather soon. Just to mention, Colton Joseph, as much as they put 33 points on the board, just 10 for 20. A little surprising there, 147 yards, 1 touchdown. So nothing crazy from him as far as the throwing aspect is concerned. The passing part of his game did carry the ball 13 times for 90 yards and 2 touchdowns. Traquan Jones, 96 yards overall, 1 touchdown, got 65 of them at one time. And Roche, 145, somehow doesn't find the end zone, does have a long of 67 yards. Goose Crowder returned for the Trojans. couldn't really get much going. 11 of 21, just 98 yards, didn't even hit the century mark for the night, and did have one interception, 0 touchdowns, obviously, as we know that there was nothing on the board. The most surprising part to me was Troy only having 26 yards in the rushing category. Just Tay Meadows and Lovett both completely shut down. The two of them together would have averaged 4.2 yards per carry. And that's not going to win you many games. Can't control the ball, can't control the clock. It's going to be hard to come back from that. So, yeah, Trey Brown receiving wise, 112 yards, didn't find the end zone. Ja'Cory Thomas, just 2 catches, 27 yards, was one of the ones who had the receiving touchdown for the day for the Monarchs. And G. Will says, just says comment, we will learn. We have been one of the main teams that have been absolutely pillaged of talent year in and year out, but they are now 7-1 against the West. I did not realize that. All time 7-1 against the West. So that's a really impressive mark for the Monarchs to claim. They've just got to, have that kind of game in the East more often. Warren says for the Troy aspect, just O-line issues, which is pretty obvious there as well, right? I mean, your quarterback doesn't have time to complete a lot of passes. Your running backs aren't getting many yards. Definitely an O-line issue. Same thing with App State, as we'll get into here in a second. In fact, we'll jump over to that one right now. James Madison on their way to college football playoff, at least conversation, right? At the very least, we'll find out Tuesday night if they've done enough to impress the committee. USF has lost their spot that they were claiming right there in the CFP as of right now. There's no doubt they will not be claiming that spot after a loss to Navy. But does James Madison jump into it? I think the question mark you're going to have to ask is, to the committee's point, was the schedule good enough for them to get in? We've said that in years past when Liberty played next to nobody, but then got the New York Six Bowl because, they were undefeated, but they didn't play a power team all season. Meanwhile, you've been told to challenge yourselves. Part of that, I understand. Part of it, it's hard. James Madison, App State, Troy, a lot of these teams are trying to schedule bigger opponents, and the bigger opponents are not signing those games because they're frankly afraid to get beat. So you're punishing a team for something that they had no control over. You think James Madison, a number of teams in this conference would shy away from shots at Notre Dame and USC and both USCs. Hell, I don't care which one it is. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that would gladly take those games, but they're not getting those games. They're getting declined if they're ever even getting the opportunity to have a discussion about those games. So anyways, my point there is James Madison has won almost every game in front of them. They've won a lot of them very impressively. And then also with that loss to Louisville, you do have to argue that's a 2-quarterback set. Wasn't really efficient, but it was to get Barnett healthy. And now that he's healthy, we're seeing the true power of this team. So that's not the same team that lost that. And to me, you kind of reward a team who's gotten better and stronger as the season's gone on. We'll see if that's what the CFP thinks as well. But 58-10 against the Mountaineers. The Mountaineers came in having won the last 2 games in this rivalry because I think both fan bases would agree this is definitely one of those rivalries. Everybody wants a shot to take down what was once one of the powerhouses in this conference. App State obviously taking a downturn over these past few years, but did kind of claim that top spot. Sam's jumping on saying, "One is the loneliest number. Where's your co-host?" Yeah, Marv is coming back from a baseball tournament with his kids from South Carolina. So he did let me know last week that was probably going to have him out. I double-checked when I remembered last minute that he wasn't possibly going to be here. He did confirm that he wasn't back yet and wouldn't be partaking tonight. So we're just going to do a little faster paced single person show to get everybody caught up on all of this. I don't think it's a fear of getting beat as much as the P4 conference is mandating who they can schedule. Yeah, but I think the fact of the P4 conferences saying they don't want those types of matchups because they are afraid it's going to make them look weaker. I think one of the first ones that happened was with the ACC. And I think James Madison's a perfect example of that. App State, actually, on this graphic is also another perfect example of that. Both of those teams, you can use the same example because both of those teams beat UNC at their place in the past, and those losses look really bad. And when you have a loss like that, as you're supposed to be this power conference, the one that just hosts these teams early in the season to beat them up a little bit to get an easy victory, and you're not coming out with those victories, all right, that makes that team look bad in the ACC. And then when that team goes on to beat another ACC team, now you've got this whole, like, well, your whole conference isn't good, right? So it is still part of, I think, the aspect of what they're thinking of when they come to trying not to have these types of games. App State didn't want to have this type of game. They did not show up in this one at all, blanketed for 3 of the quarters before they finally put one in the end zone late, which had to be J.J. Cole. He is the leading passer on the day, going just 6 for 8 for 81 yards and 1 touchdown. And to mention A.J. Swan, again, just like Troy and what Warren was saying, not really great offensive line help, not a whole lot of time, not a whole lot of wide receivers catching the ball very well in this one for him. And then on top of all of that, he ends up leaving the game with an air cast. I believe it was on his leg. Couldn't get a great look. They were doing a pretty good job of blocking it. Looked pretty bad as they went onto the field. One of the trainers sprinted off like full speed as fast as she could to get the bag, and then the other trainer took it back over to them as fast as possible. So I would assume that's going to mean A.J. Swan done for the year with how they were responding to that and how he left the field. It did not come back, obviously. J.J. Cole finishing the game. But Alonzo Barnett definitely was on the field. In fact, with Swan, I would have said kept him on too late. Not a good idea. Get some other guys some reps. They didn't do that till very, very late. And honestly, they didn't do it until the injury, really. And I think that was way too late. This game was out of hand and not in question. Get your younger guys, get your guys that are less experienced some more reps in a game like this where you know you're not going to win, but let's see what they got. Alonzo Barnett on the other side, take him the hell out of the game. What are you doing? He actually gets thrown out of bounds early in the 4th or very late in the 3rd. In questionable flag, I don't know. It looked like he was trying to stay in. He gets whipped around. And it was kind of part of the tackle for me. Definitely not dirty, I don't think. They did get the flag for the 15 yards, but that is a hit that you do not want to see your star quarterback take. And especially in the game at that point, like I said, I don't think App had even scored. So they were winning that game with the goose egg still on the board. Take your quarterback out. Put Sluka in. You did it in the end anyway. Let him run the ball. Let him help run that clock down. Do not get Barnett AB3 hurt. Don't do it. Not worth it. I don't care what you think it does for running up a score for CFP. It's not helpful in the end if he ends up not being able to go for you. So we'll have to see, if they continue with that type of thing. If they get up big on Wazoo next week, we do know now that the college football game day will not be in Harrisonburg, Virginia, contrary to what I was told and what was alluded to, not by one person, not by 2 person, but by 3 or more people as I was at JMU yesterday. So interesting aspect there. G. Wills wants to know what my thoughts on logins are 10 games in. They're not good. They're not good at all. But I don't know the man personally. I'm just hearing things that aren't great. So when you're hearing things that aren't great and you're seeing things that aren't great, it's hard to be impressed. When the hire was made, I was questioning, do we know enough to know that this could be the guy? All the NFL experience they talked about, yeah, sounds great. Doesn't look like it's working out. Does it work out next year when he gets, more of his guys and he has a year under his belt with like the portal aspect, and now he knows how much money he may be playing with? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe that helps in that NFL era of, salaries and paying these kids money, but it's not paying off in the short term, and it's hard to swallow and hard to watch, especially when you see the kind of performance that you just saw on Saturday in this one. Warren says Auburn and Alabama will not schedule Troy, but they will schedule other Sun Belt teams. Yeah, that's another aspect. It's like if you're close enough that they feel like something's going to happen, they won't give you a shot. Like the local teams, of course, like Wake Forest doesn't seem to want to schedule App either. NC State's dropped a game, both ACC schools, but These were ones that were scheduled, right? That's the part about some of this is some of these are that are scheduled and then being dropped. Like you've already got the hard part out of the way. Now it's actually more difficult to like cancel that thing, pay money, and then sign with somebody else. But whatever, we move on. Sam commenting, we've already seen that with FSU and the CFP ranks. Loss of QB. Seriously, yeah, for JMU, exactly. I don't think they go very far with Sluka as their guy. We've kind of seen some of that. I just don't think he brings to the game and to the team what Barnett kid does. Quite frankly, it's not just really a disrespect to Sluka. It just seems like when he's been brought in, it's to run, and when we've seen him throw, it's not been overly impressive. So if you're not seeing it much and they're not giving him the opportunity, there's got to be a question there about why that's happening. Barnett is light years ahead as far as what we've seen. And I think that's pretty obvious after the last 2 years of what he's been capable of. Wayne Knight, just an absolute utility knife as far as that goes on the field. I said, not only is he their best running back option, 94 yards, 1 touchdown on the day, he may be their top receiver at the same time. It's kind of weird. He had the most receptions on the day with 6, second leading receiver as far as yardage is concerned. But just seems completely dangerous if you let him have that open field around him. A couple times that I can remember caught an outward swinging pass out in the flat, and if he wasn't so close to the sideline, would have probably gone a lot farther. But once or twice he had to step out rather early because of the angle he had taken and ran out of room there. Sanchez, the leading receiver for JMU, on just 2 catches with 69 yards on the day. What's crazy is 0 receiving touchdowns for anybody on the Dukes. They were all rushing touchdowns. So getting it done on the ground. I think App State at the half had 40 yards of total offense. 40 yards. They ended with a one total yard rushing. I think at one point it was negative yards rushing. Just 3 guys couldn't string together much of anything. Only 10 carries. I mean, App couldn't even hold on to the ball. They couldn't even get first down. So crazy to see what transpired there. Ben James jumping in finally saying, what's up, and Wolves up with Red Wolves not having a game this weekend. We will jump into the Marshall Thundering Herd going down to Atlanta to take on the Georgia State Panthers next. The game that probably should have been in Marshall, as we know, this was the actual 75 week, the week of remembrance. So not a whole lot of Herd fans probably traveled down to Atlanta. Not a lot of Panther fans probably in the stands for this one either, with how their season's gone. Unfortunately, 0-6 now in the Sun Belt, just 1-9 overall. TJ Finley gets the start again in this one with an injured Cameron Brown. Goes 25 of 39, 251 yards. Just 1 touchdown to 2 interceptions, though, so not great there. On the other side, really impressive performance from the man you're seeing on your screen right now, Carlos Del Rio Wilson, 22 of 27, 321 yards, 3 total touchdowns, no interceptions. So I think the only surprising thing in this game may have been that it was definitely in doubt at the half. Marshall up 21-10. So definitely within striking range for the Panthers. And then they put up the first 8 points in the second half, but Marshall puts up another 9 in the fourth quarter to put this one away, put the final dagger in it. Del Rio Wilson, also the leading rusher on the day with 17 carries, the most on the team, more than double anybody else. 97 yards total, did not find the end zone on the ground, I should say, but really impressive performance overall. Toby Payne goes over the century mark, 5 catches, 110 through the air with 1 receiving touchdown. Ted Hurst, as always, the leading receiver over for the Panthers with 74 yards on 7 catches, but did not find the end zone. Check this out, 30-18, Panthers lose, but listen to this statistic. Jordan Simmons, 19 carries, 164 yards against that Herd defense, an 8.6 average on the day, does grab a touchdown as well. Most of that coming on the longest run from scrimmage from a Georgia State Panther ever, with a 92-yard rush early in the game. So really, really impressive. I think it was the second play from scrimmage for the Panthers, if I'm not mistaken. I think the first one was an incompletion, and then he went for the 92, and just absolutely incredible there that he was able to do that. Also, another noteworthy thing that happened in this game, and that was not the only history or record-breaking thing that happened for the Panthers. So even though they lose 30-18 and continue a lackluster season, they do have some promise and some players. Brandon McAllister, their field goal kicker, just 1 for 1 on the day. Okay, no extra points, 100%. But that one that gave him that 100% accuracy came from 60 yards, ties the all-time record. That one's not setting an all-time record, but ties the all-time record for the Georgia State Panthers. So really impressive, even though it was kind of one of those games that they're probably still going to forget overall in the end there. And we know Marshall was on the road, but obviously remembering those lost in the 1970 plane crash, and a lot of those people were at the memorial. They will travel on the road to play App State next week, so we can see if they keep it rolling, and if App State can get off the schneid of losing all these games here. All right, South Alabama and ULM. Would ULM get a victory and kind of look a little bit better than they have as of late? No, they would not. South Alabama, the Jaguars, would win this one 26-14 behind 17 of 23, 162 yards from Bishop Davenport. Not any touchdowns, though. Went touchdownless in this one, as far as through the air, I should say. He did have 2 on the ground on 13 carries for 50 yards. Kentrell Bullock, 85 yards rushing, also 2 touchdowns. So really efficient, really moving the ball well on the ground for the Jags. Aiden Armenta, just 10 of 19. So statistically not bad there as far as accuracy is concerned, but just not enough attempts, right? 19 attempts, not enough attempts, no touchdowns, 1 interception, just 82 yards total. McReynolds, Zach Palmer-Smith, the duo, had 18 total carries. They had 67 yards total and 1 touchdown between them. That tandem had been pretty good, but that wasn't one of their more dominant games, unfortunately, for the Warhawks. Not anybody on either side really stands out as far as wide receiver is concerned. But yeah, we've just got 2 teams that are towards the bottom of the West that were battling to stay out of the basement. It looks like ULM's going to claim that spot a little bit longer with Texas State's victory. Surprising victory, mainly of how they did it against Southern Miss here. So we'll move on. Is it to that matchup next? I think it is. Yes, it is. Texas State wins 41-14. Their first conference victory of the year comes against the conference's or the West Division's top team in shocking fashion. I would say not shocking fashion in how many points the Bobcats put up. Even though that they've been losing games, even though that they had the bad record, they have been ultra competitive in every single one of them and scored quite a few points in each of those games as well. It's been the defense that couldn't shut anybody out and good it done. And this time it all kind of came together. Obviously helped by the fact that Braylon Braxton does go down early in this one. Landry Lady goes 29 of 44, 267, 1 touchdown, but 2 interceptions. Brad Jackson pictured here, 14 of 17, 192, 1 touchdown on the day. Lincoln Perry rushes for 118 yards, 1 touchdown. The other side, Pittman, the mainstay running back for the Golden Eagles, carries 11 times, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. Matt Jones just gets 26 on the ground on just 6 carries. So a little drop off for their rushing ability over there on Southern Miss's side. Sam Talk Sports saying if South Alabama beats Southern Miss next week, the West all of a sudden has a race with Arkansas State, Southern Miss, and Troy, and could see Troy and Southern Miss as a play-in game to the Sun Belt Conference Championship. which looks like it will be hosted by JMU again, especially if that does happen there, because there won't be anybody that could overcome their record to keep them up in the top of the conference standings, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. Because if there's two teams that are very close and they have the same record, the tiebreaker would go to whoever is ranked higher within the CFP rankings. And if there isn't anybody ranked in the CFP rankings, I believe they use some type of metric that involves both the coaches and AP poll. So I don't think we'll ever come to that. It looks like it's going to be JMU hosting that game in early December. So Friday night too, by the way, folks, that is a change. So if you are interested in checking that one out, and I'm sure we'll pump it up as we get closer, but that one's going to be a Friday night game. Get it a little bit more eyes on it than going up against, I believe, years past, we've gone up against the SEC and maybe Big 10 or Big 12 at the same time. So it's been really tough to get a lot more eyes on the Sun Belt Conference Championship game. But going Friday night will certainly help in that regard. Elijah Metcalf, wide receiver for Southern Miss, 10 catches, 116 yards and a touchdown. On the other side, Chris Don Jr. had a couple great games last year where he got over the century mark, was one of their best wide receivers. Hasn't been as noticeable, I guess, this year. Bo Sparks has really caught on and been one of their best targets. He was shut down a little bit more in this game, but Chris Don Jr. stepped up, 5 receptions, 117 yards. So just one more yard than Metcalf there on the other side. Also a touchdown through the air. So offense continues to get it done. Defense definitely stepped up in this one with 82 total tackles, 26 of them solo. But the most important aspect, as we know, those tackles for loss, those pressures on the offense to get the quarterback to get rid of it a little bit faster, and did just enough there with, Southern Miss helping with one fumble there. But yeah, we'll have to see what transpires the rest of the way for Texas State after not ending up where they wanted to before this season started, where a lot of people had them bookmarked or bookend to kind of maybe get out of this conference as one of the best teams this year. Georgia Southern jumps up and surprises Coastal Carolina. Yet again, another quarterback injuries. Collier goes down early in this one. Started off just 2 for 6 for 18 yards there. Did have 69 yards and a touchdown, though, on the ground. So the biggest and best part of this offense over the last several weeks, as we know, since he's been a starter, they have not put up less than 40 points. They do still match that 40-point output that they've put together. So now 4 straight weeks for the Chants, putting up 40 points or more. The bad news, Georgia Southern puts up 45 under 22 of 33, 264 yards, 2 touchdowns to just 1 interception for J.C. French. Even got O.J. Arnold and Weston Bryan to get in there and toss not only a pass, but both of them tossed a touchdown as well. O.J. Arnold also goes, listen to this, folks, if this guy isn't, well, maybe between him and Barnett is your player of the week. O.J. Arnold, 21 carries, 267 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the day. 62 of them coming on 1 play, but absolutely phenomenal game by Mr. O.J. Arnold. These two teams, I don't know how many of them think of it as a rivalry. I'd love to see this one brought up on a pedestal a little bit more, because these two teams play games pretty close quite often, and there's some heat between these two that, frankly doesn't exist with some other matchups. And I like this one. I think it was fun to watch. I know that it wasn't fun to watch for Coastal fans, that they thought a win here would get them into a really, really meaningful and final matchup with James Madison, because at that point, James Madison and Coastal could have both lost coming into the final week of the season. But as far as the conference is concerned, because those games both would have been out of conference, you still would have had a matchup that had the winner of that game going to the conference championship game. Just as Sam alluded to, on one side, you could have seen that on the East had this game gone Coastal's way. That was not to be the case. So we know now that is a little less meaningful of a game as we'll finish up the season. Artie Cat jumping in and saying, "Hey, Dominic, what's going on, Artie?" Marv is baseball ended up today or on his way back, so not on here with me. But Chad says Texas State just owned us yesterday. Hats off to them. Yeah, I jump up in surprise. We did talk about that. You cannot go into a game just because Texas State was sitting there with an 0-for conference record and just think you were going to walk over them. That we've watched this team to know that was not about to happen. Did we think that Texas State would win? I didn't necessarily think they'd win, but they, especially not the way that they did, but they definitely brought it, and we're ready to finally take one. Probably had enough of all the talk and the chatter behind closed doors, or not behind closed doors, as we know with social media these days. So probably hated hearing it and seeing it and were tired of it, and they went out there and did something about it. So we'll have to see if some other teams in this conference do the same thing moving forward. Jamison Tucker over here for Coastal Carolina, 4 receptions, just 4 receptions, an average of 26.8 per catch, though, because he has 107 total yards and a touchdown. Camden Brown, one of my favorite guys to watch, one of the best wide receivers in this conference. Yet again, another guy that I know will be playing on Sundays. 5 receptions, 133 yards, 3 touchdowns on the day. The hat trick is complete for Camden Brown, and really impressive performance on the offensive side of things for Georgia Southern Eagles in this one. They got the real live Eagle back too, which I don't care what you think about Georgia Southern's program or how much you dislike their football aspect, whatever, as far as just a sight to see and something that's really cool to have them have that live eagle flying around and make its entrance into the game and kind of be a part of the whole thing is just something that I'll never get tired of. It's like flyovers for games. It's literally a flyover as well, I guess. But yeah, that's an aspect of college football that I think is great when you've got these types of things to go on and do and have as part of your routine and get the fans involved. And yeah, it's just really cool to see that stuff continue tradition wise, and happy to see that they got a replacement finally and are moving forward with that tradition and everything else. We are going to try and do something really fun for you on Wednesday night. Again, I'll be out of town here for the next couple days, but hopefully that'll give me some time to put some of this together. But we plan to do a little bourbon show for you. And the guy that just made a comment here may be part of the plan, but Mr. Chad Dickens came on and did this with us with the Belt Baseball Boys, or 3B, the baseball podcast, in years past. And now we'd like to bring that over to the football aspect. So look forward to some surprises and some fun Wednesday, probably kind of totally depart from our typical show and have a lot more fun with what we're going to do. We haven't got everything nailed down and decided yet, but we're working on that in the background to bring you something fun towards the end of football season. Because let's face it, we know some of our teams are out and down and not having a lot of fun. Hopefully this show can help everybody come together and have fun, whether you're the top team in the conference or the bottom. So we look forward to bringing you that Wednesday with myself and Mr. TJ Corman. As always, for those of you watching live, thanks for tuning in. For those of you listen later, we appreciate the downloads, and we will see you guys Wednesday. Thanks for tuning in.